Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Better Than Food Book Reviews. I'm your host, Clifford Lee Sargent. Great to see you as always. Hope you're doing well. Get that coffee. Well, alright. Well, here's one to set the tone for 2026. Today is Play It As It Lays by Joan Didion, published in 1970. This was a kind gift from Spencer. Thank you very much. I enjoyed and reviewed Didion's collection of essays Slouching Towards Bethlehem a few years ago. This is the only other book of Didion's I've read. Joan Didion was an LA-based author and journalist, one of the figures who influenced new journalism, a style of journalism that reads like fiction. Hunter S. Thompson helped forge that style as well. They're very different, but yeah, they were in kind of the same milieu. Play It As It Lays is a work of fiction written in Didion's signature style, a cold, terse, meticulously crafted, brutally honest, understated portrait of a Hollywood actress having a mental breakdown in the 1960s. It's a grotesque vision of the city of angels and Hollywood society, though it also takes place in Las Vegas and the Mojave Desert. As far as I know, this vision originates in the work of Nathaniel West with his novel Day of the Locust, continues through Raymond Chandler, is perfected by Joan Didion, and is later picked up by Bret Easton Ellis, who was inspired by Didion in this novel. As you can clearly see in Ellis's novel Less Than Zero, which I always thought of as being written in a minimalist style, although after flipping through it recently, it's Proustian compared to this one. There really are very few words in this novel. It's almost like poetry, but that is its power. But real quick before moving on, today's video is sponsored by THRIFTBOOKS. And they're running the 500 billion page challenge, a nationwide reading movement encouraging everyone to read just a few pages a day. I'm totally on board with this because, as you've likely heard, a lot of folks ain't reading. Even though I read almost every day, I love the idea. It's not about finishing books fast or hitting some big goal. It's just about keeping reading a part of your life, you know? Even a few pages a day is plenty to stay in the habit. And to tell you the truth, that's all it takes, really. And a lot of people feel the same way. 57% say the hardest part is just getting started. And 2/3 of adults prefer printed books, even though nearly half of them don't read regularly. The best part? Most people end up reading more than they expected once they start. Nice. The challenge makes reading feel effortless. It's not a performance, and you don't have to finish a book to be part of it. You just keep turning pages, day by day, whichever ones you prefer. Reading doesn't need a reset or a huge goal. It starts with just a few pages. Head to thriftbooks.com/challenge and join me. And let's hit those 500 billion pages, one page at a time. Link in the description. And thank you very much to THRIFTBOOKS for sponsoring the show. Okay, back to it. Didion herself, to my knowledge, wasn't influenced by Nathaniel West so much as Ernest Hemingway, and that is abundantly clear. In Play It As It Lays, she takes the iceberg technique and transforms it into a vast Arctic tundra, a frozen desert of ice. Now, I don't want to scare you away from this book because it's extremely dark, but it's magnificently written. The sentences are like snake bites from the rattlesnakes Didion mentions in the book. They bite you and leave you paralyzed and numb. 1,000-yard stare, right? Left for dead. Play It As It Lays is mostly told from the first-person POV of an actress named Maria whose marriage to a director is on the rocks. They have a daughter named Kate who suffers from an unknown medical issue and from whom Maria has been separated. The novel tracks Maria's psychological descent through a series of social interactions, mostly with the men who seem to control her life. This was the 60s. In the beginning, we learn that there has been a death that Maria is responsible for, but only in the final pages do we get the full story. So the novel operates as a kind of mystery, which is helpful because the plot elements are fragmentary and hazy. And so this keeps us wondering, what happened? Play It As It Lays is about a woman who has everything on paper, except the most important things. Her daughter and her autonomy. While it is an LA novel, that's a reduction of its true nature. Didion writes despair as transcendence. It's an actually nihilistic story, perhaps the most distilled nihilistic novel I've ever read. Less of a condemnation than an acquiescence. A portrait of dispassionate fatigue with love, sex, wealth, drugs, fun, the whole damn thing. A heavy sigh at the Hollywood scene and life itself. It's not raging against it, it's not a moral judgment or saying that an alternative is any better. It's just a cultivated expression of exhaustion. Maria can't decide what she wants. She can only look around and see what she doesn't. She doesn't seem to have any control over her own life. The only meaningful thing for Maria is her daughter. There's only one thing she enjoys, the one thing she has control over. Driving. Very appropriate for an LA novel. She drives to places without any real reason, except to remind herself that she can control something. It's kind of heavy. Outside of this action, her life is dictated by men, who try to understand her but simply can't. Except for one, BZ, who seems to understand her entirely. All too well. This book seems to have gotten popular recently, and I'm not certain that's a good thing, but you can see why it's resonating with people. We're dealing with perpetual uncertainty. There are a ton of things outside of our control right now. And, like Didion informs us in the early pages, things don't automatically get better, right? There's no law that says that's how it's supposed to be. This isn't to say they won't or they can't, but we have no guarantee. We often have no control. That's the truth. So, I get it. I imagine many people will have a viscerally negative reaction to this book. Again, I get it. I mean, if you just don't like the book, hey, I understand, no offense. But they might resemble the characters who are so antagonistic to Maria in the novel. Why can't you just lighten up, right? They can't understand her because what they're confronted with terrifies them. They can't understand her sadness. They're supposed to be the successful, cool people. By all metrics, they've won. That someone in their elite world could look around and truthfully say none of this matters shatters their minds. To them, it's repulsive. You can see why. It's a biological survival mechanism. The book almost proves it. Not all lies are inherently bad. Sometimes the truth of the world can kill you. That isn't to say that Didion is presenting the truth. No. It's just a story of one character following the truth of their particular circumstance down to its scalding core. What they find? Didion isn't proselytizing. She's examining what happens when a character simply plays it as it lays, right? There's something very French about the novel, as though Didion had been reading Camus along with Hemingway. The ending is similar to the myth of Sisyphus. A strong method of coping with the bleakness of life is humor, which Maria claims to have lost, but the book contains just the faintest glimmer. For example, in the following line from the book, "From my mother I inherited my looks and a tendency to migraine. From my father I inherited an optimism which did not leave me until recently." It's like Didion couldn't help herself, right? She just had to have a little bit of humor. Didion uses the word sedation in the novel, and sedated is a word to describe this book. It's a sedation, a tranquility that comes from despair. Reading the book is like being on painkillers. In fact, the protagonist is on painkillers, come to think of it. It's possible that those who have never really been truly sad, truly in despair, will just not understand the book. They haven't had enough life experience yet, they haven't been there, they haven't visited that place, whereas folks who have experience with it will immediately just, you're going to recognize it like, aha, yep. And you very well may not want to engage with it at all, and I understand. But those who are looking for a, or those who are satisfied by an accurate representation of it, I mean, fucking bingo. You may not want to read the book for the same reason. I mean, it's a very, very accurate picture of true despair. So Didion got it, right? I mean, that seemed to have been her target, and she nailed it. I mean, completely. But she's conveying that in service of telling a complex story utilizing sophisticated literary techniques. It's not merely an expression of pharmacological sedation. Not at all. It's a confrontation with mortality and love in a very specific time and place. Sedation in Los Angeles, from Los Angeles, isn't a choice. It's almost a requirement for tolerating that city. That requirement creates a culture of sedation, an eerie juxtaposition of intense human suffering, whether internal or external, masked by a vacant expression of uncanny detachment. The book got that perfectly. That's real. I'm speaking from real life experience. That's a real thing. I mean, you can go there. It's a real thing. It's really spooky, actually. That's the expression this book wears. That's the tone of her voice. But as soon as you read it, you discover that Didion has forged a style that reads as such and yet simultaneously expresses the unwritten volcanic emotions lying beneath, right? She's like one of the earthquakes in LA, but one that's off the charts. The most important parts of Play It As It Lays are not written. It's the subtext beneath and in between the words. That's how the few words she's chosen hold such power. Didion writes the unwritable state of existential collapse through not writing it, through the obvious lack of explanation. Instead, indirectly describing it through sensations, short exchanges, and actions. Look at that part in the book with her meditation on self and other and visiting the Hoover Dam. Reminds me of that song Where Does a Body End by Swans. It's gorgeous writing, but it's the indescribable feeling of deep and total, almost alternate reality despair. Despair that goes past simple sadness and breaks through to a different mode of perception. Now that's fascinating, but it has a cost, no? Alienation, hypercriticality, and self-preoccupation. It's not about what should or should not be, about right and wrong. It's about what is and what is not. As Maria states in the book, quote, "I am what I am. To look for reasons is beside the point." Maria uses detachment as emancipation from pain, but the physicality of the despair keeps hurling her back to the real, with all the guilt and shame and insecurity and failure she's contending with. It's a beautiful book in a way because of her adherence to deep feeling and deep detachment. That's really the story there. The raging war between these two modes of being, detached and attached, and the chaos of that space within a woman in Los Angeles. In the book, it's as if LA represents sickness, like with the mentally ill woman Maria encounters, and the desert is death. Maria is engulfed in the massive expanse of shifting dust at the end of the world, at the end of life. The hot springs with the elderly tourists, the desert woman who has to sweep sand like the woman in the dunes, and the events with BZ. The desert represents everything Maria is afraid of: aging, losing your partner, and dying. I really admired the ending. Didion leads you to believe one thing, sets you up, gives you all the signs, like with the gun and everything, and she completely destroys your expectations in the most satisfying way, with one of the most emotional and quietly tragic endings I have ever read. She literally sets up this whole thing in our heads, and we realize that we've completely misread the would-be sinister antagonist. We were just as clueless about him as Maria's friends were about her. We thought we could read the signs. We thought we knew, but we had no idea. Didion's whole thing is that life often does not work out. Deal with it. Play it as it lays, right? It's a story about living without hope and the will to take control and keep going anyway. Devastating and beautiful. Better than food. 4 out of 5 coffees. I highly recommend it. I really enjoyed it, and I really admire Didion's style. So what did I dislike? Well, if you hadn't guessed by now, there's almost no variation in emotional tone throughout. It is remarkably monotonous, completely drugged. You have to be in the right mood to handle this kind of thing. Otherwise, if you're in the wrong headspace, it's going to throw you off. It's like listening to Aphex Twins number 3 on repeat for over 200 pages, you know? So that can either be glorious or miserable, depending on where you're at. Ideally both, right? But yeah, you know, it is what it is. But then I love depressing books. Why? Because they often tell the truth. Or a truth. And that's what I'm after when I'm reading. So who should read it? If you enjoy Bret Easton Ellis, Michelle Houellebecq, and Leaving Las Vegas by John O'Brien, check it out. And I'll leave it there for today. Please subscribe if you have not already, and hit the thumbs up if you enjoyed this, and always remember, die reading. And thank you very much to all my patrons on Patreon for making this possible. I really appreciate it. Alright, take care of yourselves, have a good one, talk to you soon. Ciao.